I was talking about the Grand Canyon to somebody. I was doing a like a training at somebody's real estate office, and they asked me what I do like, and I was talking about I ran in the Grand Canyon, and I was just reliving some of that the other day. That was a freaking awesome trip.
Yeah, no, it really was. We get up there, we fly into Phoenix, and we drive up. It's about a 4 hour drive, 3.5 4 hour drive up to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. And we'd gone shopping for food and for provisions and things like that for our matching Grand Canyon sunglasses.
Yeah, we did.
Um, and then we get to an Airbnb up there in that little town that's just south of the entrance, the park entrance.
And the Airbnb was listed as a bungalow, and it was a single wide trail.
Right.
It said bungalow. That was awesome.
Yes, it was a single wide trailer, a 3 bed, 2 bath.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
probably was it a single wide or was it a
I think
double wide?
so. I think it was a single.
Okay, it was actually pretty spacious now that I think
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. It was good,
So
but
it
it wasn't a
it
bungalow.
served our needs and it was actually pretty cheap, considering.
I mean, it had a VCR recorder.
Well, just to set this up, we travel on day one. Day two, we we did a we're going to talk about this. We did a pretty ridiculously strenuous hike. Day three, you had an off day. I did rim to river to rim on day three. Day four, there's a big group of us that we were going to attempt to do R3 rim to rim to rim, but the north rim was closed. The North Kaibab Trail was closed after Cottonwood Camp. So we had to turn around. We'd still attempted R3. We just had to stop at Cottonwood and turn back around. And then day four, we attempted Humphreys Peak. And then day five, we flew home. So I was just trying to we were out there for 5 days.
Yeah, Humphreys.
So so I hiked 4 days in a row.
This is crazy.
You took the one day off, but you
Yeah,
hiked 3 out of the 4 days,
yeah,
which,
yeah.
but I remember I put in 77, I think it was 76, 77 miles of hiking in 4 days. And
Before our group got there, we were there. We checked in, just me and you, to the bungalow, and we get up. Well, we 4:30 a.m. We get up really early in the morning.
I want to say we got up we left at 3.
We did. You're right. We left at 3,
Yeah.
so that we were hoping we could get on the trail at 5:30 or 5, something like that.
Yeah. Because we had a 2 hour drive. So let's set this up real quick. I'll
Okay.
set it up and you jump in.
Fill in the blanks. Okay.
So on day one was a travel day, got all our provisions, and I had this plan that I knew we couldn't do R3. We couldn't do rim to rim to rim the traditional way because the North Kaibab Trail was closed north of Cottonwood. So we couldn't do R3, and we kind of knew that. So I had been kind of plotting and planning out how can I still do R3? Well, there's what's known as the R3A. So it's the rim to rim to rim alternate route. And the alternate route um, is to go on the Bass Trail. And the Bass Trail is you cannot find the Bass Trail on a normal, like the maps that they hand you at the Grand Canyon. There are so many. Grand Canyon is so vast. It's so enormous. It's so enormous. And you can double check me on this. I think only like 10% of the Grand Canyon is the national park.
Yeah.
The other 90%, I might have those figures off just by a little bit, but the vast majority of the Grand Canyon is on Native American land. So that's not public access. So just the tiny little part that is national park, even of that, only a tiny portion is on the maps. So what they call the corridor trails, the trails that are kind of anybody in the public can kind of do this. So we're going to the Bass Trail. Well, the Bass Trail, you have to really know what you're doing and talking about to even find the Bass Trail. And not only that, it's a 2-hour drive.
First of all, you need a secret map to get there.
You need a secret map. You need a forest service road map. A map of the service roads, because you're on about 3 or 4 of them to get all the way back up into the Bass Head trailhead, the Bass trailhead. And you can't go but 30 miles an hour, 40
Yeah.
miles an hour, maybe tops. You got to have a high clearance vehicle because you can't really do it in a car. You get stuck. We almost got stuck in a high clearance vehicle many times. So it's just to get to the Bass Trail is insane.
Just to get there.
That in and of itself is a complete adventure. Let's just talk about that part. What do you remember about just getting to the trailhead?
I think
Starting
if
at
we
3
ever
a.m.,
go
by the
again,
way, in the pitch black dark.
it's pitch black. You second guess yourself the entire way if I'm even on a trail. Are we in the woods or are we on a trail?
Not a trail, a service road.
Yeah. Are we on a service road or are we just in the woods driving around?
If you look at the service road maps, you can even pull them up on Google Maps. It's like this little spider web looking thing that trails are just, these service roads are going everywhere.
I think if we ever did it again, I would say we need a winch. Like on the list of things we need is we need a winch that can bolt to the truck.
We got out there.
We're about halfway and we're parked like this. And I'm like, Brian, I don't know about this. Oh, yeah, it's going to be okay. When we go, I'm saying we're at like this much of an angle. Like, and the truck just goes boom, boom, right? We both hit our heads on the on the top of the ceiling in the truck. That I started thinking right then, we're never getting out of here. We basically crash landed this thing down a hill. What's this?
This is everything I packed. We had to carry, because there's no water.
No water.
We had to carry gallons of water. This is us the morning we're getting ready to leave. And so I'm going to take you through this photo real quick.
Okay.
Do you remember this?
Is that when we first got there? That's the trailhead. No,
No.
tribal.
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, and I was
where
looking
we're not supposed to be.
Right. So this right here is you're entering Havasupai tribal lands, and there's a gate up. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't go through this gate. The gate's down. And because of COVID, and even though it was the summer of 2023, this was in May. This was May 10th, 2023, is when what the story of what we're talking about right now is going on. And because of COVID, they had shut down Havasupai. They had shut down the road that takes you to the Bass Trail, so you're taking service roads in, and you need to go kind of like through and around Havasupai land to get back onto the national park land to get to the trailhead. Well, what had happened in the couple of years that they had it shut down since 2020. So in the 3 years that had gone by already since COVID, since they had shut it down, their locals or whomever came in and kind of made their own road that ran parallel to Havasupai land. So because you can't get on Havasupai land, and you can't go through there all. So you have to stay on stay on national park land, but you got to basically go through the woods for exactly 2 miles.
Perfect size for a four-wheeler, by the way, not a pickup truck.
You got to you got to do this for 2 miles on this. It's not even a road. It's not even a service road. It's just you're in the woods. You're driving in the woods, and there's kind of a road ish. But you just imagine like washouts. Imagine just you're on some hard dirt, some grass. You're just in the woods with a
Big rock.
semi-looking service road trail thing
Yeah.
for 2 miles until you pick the service road back up. Because again, it has to go into Havasupai land, and the road curves around and it comes back around, and you go back out of Havasupai land, back into national park land. So it basically cuts off that loop. And so you get back onto a service road, and then you got another mile or so, and then you get to the trailhead. So we'd already gone, and we're already an hour in to
We're
this.
past the point of return.
We're an hour in. And I'm like, I already knew all this because I wonder if I could pull this up. Go ahead and keep talking while I try to pull this up. What else do you remember about the drive?
Okay. Coming down that hill I was talking about was in my head, I was like, this is stupid. Like, seriously, it wasn't like a little hump. It was a very steep, rocky, soft dirt hill. That at the bottom, there's a fence post right here, and about whatever the width of a Silverado is, add 3/4 of an inch, and then there was a tree. So it was fence post, tree, the exact size of a Silverado, right? That was crazy. You remember trying to go through that?
Yeah, oh yeah. All right, so check this out real quick. Can you see this, Rob?
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, so here, first of all, we started way out here. We stayed in Tusayan. I think that's how you say that. We stayed here. So all of this, I don't know if you can see my
Yeah, I can see
my arrow, my mouse. We had to travel all this is service road. And this is Havasupai land all out here. The green right here is national park land. So all this, we just drove all this way to get to this point right here.
Yeah.
This right here is where we'd go. That gate I showed you earlier was right here.
Boom,
and
bam,
you have to come all the way out here onto Havasupai land and then all the way back out to get to the road to get to the trailhead, Southwest Trailhead. See it? Can you see all that?
Yeah, I also see the Havasupai Trail is not permitting access across their land. And yet, this is the map you were given, and you knew.
Okay. So let me say this. Well, first of all, the red dashed line that you see right here, this is the line. This is the road. This is this is the created road.
Got it.
That we drove on.
Is the fence.
The green is the well, it's the border. Yeah, there was a barbed wire fence. This is the border.
Got it.
Havasupai land that is separated by a fence. We were literally hugging this fence. I mean, it looks like that's probably the amount of space between this red dash line and that green line is literally that 3 millimeters right there is about the amount of space that there was that we were hugging this line.
If anybody from Enterprise Rental Car ever sees this, like it was a little more space in it.
Okay, but check this out. This is what I wanted to say. Where did I get this map? You might ask.
Yeah, where did you get this map?
Let me. I just want to read. I'm going to read this word for word.
Yeah.
I sent an email on May 2nd. This is 8 days before we're going to attempt to do this. I sent an email to GRCA _BIC at nps.gov.
So
What is in
you're just gonna put him on the glass,
put
just
no,
blast.
no, well, this is a I got responses from numerous. So this is NPS, nationalparkservice.gov.
Hmm.
I got responses back from different people. So
Okay,
this email address is being manned by the National Park Service at the
got
Grand Canyon.
it.
I write in this email dated May 2nd, 2023, is the road to the South Bass Trailhead open? Question mark. That's it. That's the whole email. I get a response the very next day, less than 24 hours later. Hello. The road is open to the Havasupai Gate, which I showed the picture of the Havasupai Gate. But the tribe has chosen for their land to remain closed to the general public, so you cannot legally drive to the South Bass Trailhead currently. Most folks are parking before the gate and
Woo.
hiking or biking in. So let me just take you back to the. Can you still see the picture?
Yeah.
So if we were to, right here where the star is, okay, and right here where the star is,
Dang it, 7 miles.
yeah. That's what I was about to say. How many miles is it to the trailhead from this star? It's 7 miles. It's 2 here plus another 5 on the road. So let me go back to the email. Well, as an aside, they want us to hike or bike 7 miles just to get to the trailhead. Okay. Now check this out. An illegal road has been created to the trailhead, but folks who drive out there are risking a citation.
Okay.
Thanks for your inquiry. Respectfully, and I won't give the person's name. So when I read this, I'm thinking, okay, an illegal, he uses the word illegal, and then he says risking a citation. And what I found out later, Rob, is that the National Park Service governs the national park. The National Park Service governs Grand Canyon National Park.
Right.
However, and I don't even know what department, because this is the I forget what all the departments are, but a separate department governs the fire access roads or the service roads. Completely, they are not manned and governed by the National Park Service. They're governed by the Forest Service or whatever. I don't even know who it is. So if we were to get a citation, it would not be by the National Park Service. It would be by another federal agency. So I email back next day, May 4th. I truly appreciate your reply. Can you provide me with a link to a detailed map of the area? I have no problem parking at the gate, trying to comply. I had no intentions of parking at the gate. I have no problem parking at the gate. I'm seeing that it's around 7 miles from the gate to the trailhead. Is that correct? Question mark. I had gotten that information from a thread, from some message board thread that I had found. It's just really hard to find information about this trail. Also, I'm planning a day hike there next week. I don't need a permit. Correct? Question mark. Thanks. Next day, May 5th. Hi, Brian. I think this map, which is attached, I think this map will be helpful. Yes, 7 miles to South Bass Trailhead from the gate closure. No permits needed if you are not spending the night out there. Thank you. Signed a different person, by the way, a woman. And
Night shift.
and then I just replied, "This is perfect. Thank you so much." Blah blah blah. They attached the map that you're looking at is the map that the National Park Service attached for me to use. So where did I get this map? Got it straight from the National Park Service.
Nice.
Okay. So risking a citation, you're correct. And if I don't know if you remember this, but this is like 4 o'clock in the morning, or roughly at this where this star is on that map. There was a car parked there. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was actually later than that. because I think
Okay.
you were a little aggravated. You were like,
Well,
man, we needed to get started before this. It took way longer to drive than I thought it would.
well, check this out. Can you see the timestamp on there? Can you see the timestamp on there?
4:09 a.m. Okay, that's at the
That's
gate.
that's when I took a picture of the gate.
But it took us a long time to get from that gate to the trailhead. That was the part that took so long.
Yep. So
We
let me
were
pull.
doing like 30 up into the gate. And then after the gate, we were doing like
Well,
9.
now listen. Not really. Look at this. So this is a picture of us at the trail or me at the trailhead, and look at the timestamp.
Yeah, it was an hour later.
We wanted to get there by 5. We got
Took us
out
an
of.
hour to drive 7 miles.
No, we knew that though. No, we knew that. We did good. We left at 3 and we got there at 5. We knew it was going to take 2 hours.
Okay.
I had budgeted 2 hours.
Okay.
I wanted to start the hike at 5. I think we might have started the hike at like 5:15 or something like that. So this is sunrise.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. All right, but so do you remember what we saw when we got to the trailhead in our vehicle?
Yeah. There was some people sleeping in sleeping bags at the tip of the trail. Like, if you don't want to get woke up, why are you sleeping right here? I gotta step over you.
I'm not worried about that. There were 2
Yeah,
cars already there.
2 cars.
How did they get there? They
Same
must
way
have
we
they must have risked a citation as well, right?
And they were sleeping.
They were in tents. They were camping at the trailhead.
Yeah.
So I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel bad about it at all. I mean, if someone watches this video a year later and wants to give me a citation, I guess I'll take the citation. I mean, I don't.
He lives in Tarrant. No, I'm just he lives in Pelham, Alabama.
They got my email address. I'm sure they could pull up. I just read the email word for word. I'm sure they could search the email and find my name. But so just getting to this so let's just go back. Just getting to the trailhead was just a massive adventure. And especially when we were talking about that 2-mile stretch of that red dashed line, that right there, it was a lot of flat. And there was that one section that kind of went kind of steep downhill real quick. Do you remember that?
Oh
Because we
yeah.
had to fight it coming back,
Yeah.
going uphill. But there was and then there was that one section I think you mentioned where we were literally a fence post and a big gigantic tree, and we couldn't have had an inch on either side. We pulled the mirrors in, and there
It
couldn't have
was so
been.
awesome.
But you can't do this without a high clearance vehicle. I mean, we had what did we have? Like a big Chevy.
It was like a Silverado.
Yeah, it was Silverado, like 1500 or something.
Yeah.
Um, and it worked out great. I mean, it worked out. Maybe it could have worked a little better because the return trip wasn't quite as smooth. But it was. I just remember it being. You had to get out. You had to get out of the truck a couple of times to kind of like guide me, and I was really nervous. I mean, a couple of times where you said, I've learned this about myself. If I'm hell bent on doing something and there's somebody with me and I say, oh man, no, we're going to do it. Now, if they fight me on it, then I'll probably relent. But you didn't fight me. You were just
Yeah.
like, all right. You said something like, I think we should turn around. I'm like, hell no. And you were like, all right.
All right. Let's roll.
But if you would have fought me on it, I would have thought twice about it.
It was pretty rough, man.
Bad. Hey, but we made it, right?
Yeah.
So 2 hours, we get to the trailhead a little after 5. We start the hike. We start the hike at about, 5:15-ish. Let me play
That
let me play
hike.
some of this.
I mean, yeah. The trail was not like the Grand Canyon Bright Angel. This was 12 to 18 inches. It was like a rabbit trail.
Going down South Bass Trail was really loose rock. Like that first mile, like that you see in that video right there that we're showing,
Yeah.
was really loose rock. A lot of rock fall obviously was going on, and you couldn't really go that fast. I mean, we were slipping on just loose rock pretty much the whole way down. So,
So overgrown.
so what I remember next is, and then that was only like the first mile, and this was kind of like
Yeah.
some of the trail as well.
Yeah.
It got smoother for sure.
Yeah, but there was before we got to that, if I remember, it was like this big
Wooded
rock,
area.
like cliff. Look at that. That is amazing. It's gorgeous. But do you remember we were coming down like the face of a cliff
Yeah.
into what seemed like a jungle that was you were having to push the brush out of the way to stay on the trail.
So we're going down South Bass. Well, I don't even think I even said this first. We're I am attempting R3 alternate, the alternate route, which requires you to go down the South Bass Trail, get to the Colorado River. There's no bridge. You have to swim across the river or take a ferry across the river, and then go up North Bass Trail all the way to the top of North Rim, and then come back. So that's what I was attempting to do. And I had heard stories that it was going to be really tough to do that time of year with the record snowfall last year and all that snow melt going into the river. The river was raging, going way faster than it normally would at this time of year. So I kind of already knew in the back of my mind that it was going to be really, really tough. And if not, just wasn't going to be able to do it. So I already kind of knew in my mind that it was probably not, but we're going to give it a try. Do you remember what happened next? Before we got to the river,
Oh, before we get to the river.
the significant event that happened before we got to
Yeah.
the river?
Oh yeah. You turn around, you're like, hey, there's some people up here. Ah, yeah, we tightened up a little bit. Yeah. And it was a ranger out in the middle of nowhere. Two rangers, that's right. Just two rangers out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And if I remember right, she was the female ranger was pressing for our names and our contact information. First, she was like, what are y'all doing out here? Like she couldn't believe that she was seeing life like people.
Yeah, well, stop, pause on that point for a second. This trail, I can't stress enough how remote of an area this is. Like, we just got done explaining. It took 2 hours in a miraculous event just to get to the trailhead. And now we're coming down this trail, and they had tents set up. They were out there for a while. They were doing certain things, whatever they're doing, but they were out there for a while, and I bet they hadn't seen a soul.
They hadn't seen anybody in a long time.
Days.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, she was worried for our lives.
It's the first thing she said to us. She goes, how did you get? That's the very first word she said. How'd you get here? How'd you get down here?
Yeah. What do you mean? Yeah. We hiked.
Right. What are you talking about? And then she goes, how'd you get to the trailhead? You can't drive to it. And I was like, remember what I said to her? I didn't even blink. I didn't even stutter. I go, I didn't see any signs.
We didn't know. We didn't see the.
I didn't see any signs.
There's signs that we couldn't.
And she goes, well, that might be true. But, and we told her what our vehicle was. We told her
Yeah.
that we were parked up there.
Yep.
And I was like, there are other cars parked up there.
She was very insistent. She wanted to know what kind of car we were in, and she wanted to know our names.
Well, she didn't want to know our names until after I told her what we were doing.
Yeah.
She was just asking a lot of questions, which she probably should have. You got people that are idiots out there. I mean, I got a book. I don't have it on me right now, but I got a thick, gigantic book. It's called Death in the Grand Canyon. And it outlines every which way people have died in the Grand Canyon the last 100 years. And it ain't no joke out there.
Yeah, this is not safe. Y'all shouldn't be out here. And you're like, I'm an Iron Man.
That's not exactly how it went. Okay, so all right. So I'm gonna do the best I can. This was probably what now 7, 8, 9 months ago now. Right away, how'd you get down here? We hiked. Okay, where'd you park? Or where, how'd you get to the trailhead? We drove. You're not allowed to drive. That's an illegal road. I didn't see any signs. And so once we got past that part, it was, what are you guys doing? We're gonna hike down to the river and maybe a little bit further. Possibly go up North Bass a little bit. And she goes, I'll never forget this. She goes, "Oh, are you gonna take the ferry?" And I go,
There's a ferry.
"There's a ferry?"
Yeah.
And then she goes,
Instantly
"Yeah."
knew you were trying to swim.
No, she so she started to answer my question and then she stopped, like dead answer. She goes, "Yeah, sometimes there's a wait a minute. How are you planning on getting across?"
He instantly knew.
So I go, and I'm not trying to give her a ton of information. I don't even know what I'm about to tell. I don't want to lie to her. I'm not trying to deceive her, but I do have extensive experience in the backcountry, extensive experience doing what we were doing. And we had plenty of water on us and a filter in case water did, because it was warm that day. It was pretty warm that day in May, early to mid May. So how are you planning to get across? I was like, well, we're gonna see what the river looks like. And if it looks like it's passable, we're gonna try to swim. And I said, "Is there anything illegal about that?" And she goes, "No, it's not illegal, but it's highly discouraged. That's how people die."
Yeah.
He literally said that. That's how people die. And I'm sitting there like, yes, man, I understand that. I'm not just your average Joe. And when I said I've done Ironman races before, I wasn't sitting here trying to like toot my horn. I was trying to alleviate some of her concerns that I've swam many, many miles in open water. I think I can swim 150 yards or 100 yards. I've swam many, many miles in cold, open water in rivers that are fast moving rivers in wetsuits. And I had a wetsuit with me. So I was telling her kind of all this stuff. And she just would not stop trying to tell me that I was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
She just kept coming back to the fact that this is how people die. And I go, and I asked her, I don't know if you remember this. I go, when's the last time someone died? And she goes, someone died last month. And I go, trying to swim across the river? She goes, no, something else, heat stroke or whatever it was. And I'm like, when's the last time someone died trying to swim across the river? She's like, I don't remember anyone ever dying trying to swim across the river. I'm like, come on. I mean, don't just throw hyperbole at me.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate your concern. And then she was desperately trying to get my information. And I was like, listen, and I think you gave her your information.
I gave her my info. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, look, you got his. I'd rather remain anonymous. You've got his information. If something he's not swimming across the river.
You remember what she said though? She's like, listen, I just need your information. So if you don't make it, your relatives will know your last known location. I was like, okay, my name's Rob.
So again, and I already said this, but I already had it in my mind that it was going to be a really, if not impossible, it was going to be really, really difficult to do what I was trying to do that day. And then after talking to her, I was already kind of thinking in my mind, I may not be able to cross, because she was telling us how fast the river was moving, how cold it was. I knew it was going to be cold, but that it was just moving incredibly fast. And then she said something that almost like really it kind of thwarted the whole thing. She said, if you do make it across, you're not even going to be able to go up North Bass because there's a section that's completely flooded, and you definitely won't be able to make it across that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, she said, the best backcountry hiker that's out here all the time just told us a few days ago that it was still impassable. It's like this creek that it still was overflowing. Because again, record snowfall, all that snow was melting off the North Rim and getting dumped into the Colorado River and getting dumped into all the
And it
little
was like
creeks.
20 feet up there or something.
It was nuts. It messed up the trail. That's why North Kaibab Trail was closed
Yeah.
for months
Yeah.
because of all the trail damage from all the snow. So we get past the Rangers and we get down to the river, and you kind of walk along. We're way up high. Probably, what do you think?
And I'm
500 feet?
way behind you at this point. I'm a quarter mile behind you.
Yeah, you slowed way down, and I'm like, if I'm gonna do R3, if I'm gonna do this whole thing, we gotta go.
Yeah.
I gotta go. We are. It took us so long to get to the river because that
Yeah.
trail was just really messed up the first mile. We had to basically go through a wooded area that slowed us way down. We stopped and talked to the Rangers for probably 20 minutes, and then so I'm like, man, I've lost like probably 2 hours.
Yeah.
We're 2 hours slower getting to the river than I thought we were going to be. So we get down to the river, and we're up on the top of this big, I guess, ravine. I don't even know how to just.
So, first of all, you found this little trail to go down to the river, and it was in this cutout, like this ravine. I didn't see that. So, you're down there. And I already knew I was behind you, way behind, but I walked right past that.
Because that trail keeps going.
Yeah, I got up on this ridge, but it was lucky for me. Like you're yelling, and I'm like, hang on a second. I'm looking over the edge at some at some massive rapids, like massive. I don't think you saw them because you went down before you could see them.
No, I did go before you got there. I did go past it. I didn't go very far past it, but I just went far enough past it or to see if I were to go down that little ravine down to the where the beachy area was, so we could actually like get to the river. I probably went 300 yards, 400 yards past, and I'm like looking at the speed of the river, from way up high. And I didn't go down as far as you did where I didn't see any rapids. And I'm like, man, there's a good section here, and there was like a really good spot on the other side, 100 yards, 200 yards down river.
You say though, to get to the beach where you're talking about, it was like a 200-foot descent. Like we're way up here, and we had to go down like this. Like it was a climb down, straight up. Yeah. Okay. I think it was about 200 feet.
Yeah,
Drop.
150, 200 feet. I think that's.
Okay. So we find this little beach. When we say a beach, this thing was 80 feet long and maybe about 15 feet of sand off the water up to and then it was just straight up rocks.
Yeah. So here is. What is happening? I was going to try to play this video. Here is just to give you an idea. Let me start this video over. Give you an idea of where we were.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we're way up high and we can see stuff. So I go down in this little ravine and I'm like, this is gonna be the spot. This is gonna be the spot that it's a beachy area. There really weren't a lot of because it was just so high. It was like a wall, like a canyon wall, river wall. So there wasn't a lot of places to try to even get down to the river to be able to swim across. So this is really one of the only places, and it just so happened to be a good spot to get across. So I kind of scouted out real quick. I'm already like basically in my wetsuit by the time you get down there. And here is
You're halfway. Yeah.
in my wetsuit. And I can't get this video to play for some reason. I don't know why it won't play. But I'm just trying to find, and then the next video, next pictures I have is me across the river. So
Right. Well, how about this though? Like, hey, you're gonna run at least 6 miles on the other side, minimum. And you're like,
oh no. I mean, up to get all the way to the top of the North Rim.
no, your plan was once you got on the other side of the river, the minimum you were gonna run 6 more miles before you came back.
That's if I couldn't cross that creek that she was
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
But to
Right.
get
Right.
all the way to the North Rim and back was 20 miles. I mean, you're going to be there.
Yeah.
You were going to be there for
What I'm getting at
12,
is
10, 12 hours.
you were gonna be on the other side for quite some time. And
Yeah.
we were like, all right, there's no water. What are we gonna do about water? You remember, I'm like, let's tie this gallon of water
Yeah. So I
with
had,
long sleeves to your waist.
yeah. So I'm in my wetsuit. I've got a dry bag and I've got a gallon and I've got my pack's in the dry bag. All my stuff that I'm going to need is in my dry bag. And then I've got, this gallon of water. Again, there's no water. I mean, there's some places I can filter.
I mean, seriously, like a gallon.
Like a gallon jug of water.
Yeah.
I have a jug. Yeah, I mean, I carried 2 full gallons down, and I think you carried one.
Yeah.
Didn't we have 3 full gallons?
Yeah. Plus
So
what was in my
plus what was already in we actually
yeah.
had our pack too.
Yeah.
Water bottles in our pack too, in addition to that. So yeah, you tied this gallon jug of water around. I used my long sleeve shirt and it just floated behind me. It was buoyant. It floated in the water.
We had a floaty or something, a swim buoy on a rope, and we tied it around your waist. And then we took like a long sleeve shirt and tied it through the handle of the gallon of water and then tied the other end to the rope on your way. So you have this gallon of water going, not the greatest idea.
So
The
plan all along was for you to stay on that side of you weren't swimming.
Yeah, right.
I was gonna swim. I was gonna hike up, hike back down, swim back across, and then we would hike back out together, probably in the dark.
So to back up for a second, I wanted to swim when you told me you were swimming. So way before the trip, I'm in Dick's Sporting Goods with my wife. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm looking at these flippers. And she's like, you're going to wear some damn Barbie doll flippers in the Colorado River. I mean, it was like some kid flippers. Absolutely not. You are not doing that. I mean, straight up wife on TV shut me down. So yeah, I wasn't swimming.
No, and I told you that too. I wasn't going to let you do that. You didn't, and I didn't. I don't even have tons of experience. I've got experience, but not tons. I was nervous for me.
Dude, I was the captain of the swim team in the 8th grade.
Yeah, how old are you, Rob?
You don't forget that stuff, man.
How old are you? 50?
I'm 52.
Oh. So I've got a swim buoy that's tied around my waist. I've got my dry bag tied around my waist. It had to have been tied around my waist, right?
It was tied to the rope. It was tied around your waist.
I had a rope. I had a separate. That's right. I had a separate rope tied around my waist that was tied to my dry bag and to that gallon of water.
Yeah.
I left my trail shoes on because it was so rocky.
Jaggedy.
Yeah, I didn't want to risk cutting my feet up. I did bring my flippers though. I did bring my flippers. I had a sleeveless wetsuit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was basically like, I gotta go. And the way I wish I had one of those pads I could draw. But we were at where the launch point was at a bend in the river.
Yep.
So there's like this huge bend right where I kind of take off at the top of that bend. So right in front of me, the water that's right in front of me, and what I found out as I was going, halfway across the river, the water wasn't moving at all. Hardly at all. It was basically stagnant water.
Because it was in that back side of the bend.
Yeah, on the backside of this bend. And so I'm like, I basically get in the water, and it had been that it was pretty shallow. It was probably ankle deep and I can imagine because there's so much snow melt and so much water was coming into the river. I can imagine all that was probably sandy beach, and it's
Mhm.
probably sandy beach today, because it was super shallow, maybe ankle deep for maybe knee deep for what, 10 yards, 15
Yeah.
yards, and then I kind of sink into my waist, and then I'm in, and it got cold quick, and I start swimming, and I'm just like, this is going pretty good. I'm swimming, and we found a spot that spot where that bend in the river was. It couldn't have been 150 yards, 100 yards, 150 yards. It was not that far across.
But I, in my head, knew there was a good little one if you could go straight across. Then there was a decent sized one just a little bit down, and just past that was massive,
Yeah.
massive white water. Like if you miss that
Yeah.
beach, you're gone.
So what I had seen and what I knew in my mind was across from where we were, down about 100 yards, which I thought I could 100 yards. I can make it 150 yards across with a 100 yard runway. About 100 yards down, maybe a little bit more, there was a landing spot, a big beach area, a pretty
Mhm.
big beach area.
Yeah.
Beyond that, and then there was a wall where you couldn't do anything, and then there was another pretty big beach area. So I had these two pretty big landing spots, and I probably had a 500-yard runway. That seemed safe to me. And I get in, and that water is just, I had been cold water swimming here in Alabama in a lake,
Like a
and the
bat.
water had gotten down to about 42 degrees, which is damn cold, by the way. But this was colder than that. I mean, this was cold. It was colder. It was much colder, and I was in a sleeveless wetsuit. By the time the first half, I was thinking this is going as good as I could have hoped for. And I was swimming pretty hard too. I'm trying to get that across that damn thing as fast as I can.
Overhand.
And you, by the way, why don't you tell what you were doing when I got in?
I was watching because I could see the current, and it looks, hey, overhand, overhand. I don't know how many strokes I saw, and you're swimming, and I'm like, oh man, he's gonna make. And then it went gone out of my sight. Like,
Because it was around the bend. It
yeah, but when
completely out of your sight.
it's like you're swimming and everything's good, then all of a sudden the river grabbed you and turbo shot you completely out of my sight in a split second. Like I was like, all I could think of is it was pushing you to those rapids, and I was just thinking imminent death, straight death. No, now I'm going up 200 feet to get to the top to see where Brian is.
Yeah, so you're having to scramble up the top of this steep climb because you can't see anything. I mean, we're talking about literally 200 feet. These
And I
walls go
left all
straight
my
up.
stuff at the bottom, by the way. I was like, you know what? I've just got to get up there light as possible, see what's going on.
So we are, I disappear out of your sight. You're trying to scramble to the top to see me. You got a 200-foot climb,
Yeah. By
maybe
the time
100 feet,
I got there,
between
you
150 and 200 feet.
yeah.
And then you got to get up there, and then you got to locate me and figure out what's going on. Meanwhile, I get about halfway across this river, and it was unbelievable. Like the change of me swimming across a river and barely moving downstream to suddenly this river just grabbed a hold of me and just took me. And I could not believe it, how fast it changed.
Yeah.
And and so a little bit of shock, a little bit of panic. I'm already cold, really cold. A little bit of shock and panic sets in, and I'm like, just keep going.
Didn't your swim buoy pop up?
Well, hold on.
Oh,
So I get about I'm about now 3/4 of the way, maybe not even that far across the river, and the river is just shaking me. I can't even really maybe I only took 3 or 4 more strokes because I couldn't even really get my arms up to swim because it was so vicious and violent. So I went and thank God I had my swim buoy, really and truly. Thank God I had the thought to even take that and have that. But I'd done so much open water swimming, it's just always a just in case thing. You always have it on you. So I went and grabbed that thing from behind me, and I'm telling you, this thing was taking me so fast. I tried to grab a hold of my swim buoy, and I tried to grab a hold of it so hard that the thing popped straight up out of my arms. I go underwater,
so bad.
like, and the water's got to be 35 degrees, if not. I mean, it's cold. It's damn cold water. So I come back up, and I'm straight panic, straight panic. I'm able to grab my swim buoy.
What were your arms feeling like at this point?
I could feel the needles of pain. I could feel the needles. It was so cold. It was so cold. So I've got my buoy and I just start kicking. I just start kicking like hell. And the whole time I'm grabbing it and I'm kicking. I got strong legs, been hiking for a long time, and I've been, done some Ironman, a lot of biking, a lot of running. So I've got strong legs and I was kicking. I'm able to take deep breaths. Hey, calm down, calm down. And as I'm grabbing a hold of my buoy for the very first time and looking ahead, at the across, again, not a little bit more than halfway across. That first landing zone starts. It's gone. The first landing zone is gone. I'm like, damn. So I'm just like, just kick, just kick, just kick. I got about another 150 yards. I got about another 100 yards till the start of the next landing zone. And I've got about 150, maybe 200 yards. That was a big beach area. So I'm like, I can do this. I can do this. Deep breath. Deep breaths. And I'm just kicking. I'm kicking. I'm kicking. I'm kicking. I'm kicking. And I've got plenty of runway. I get to the edge, and there's this little, it's not like a tree looking thing. It's not even 3 feet out of the water, but it had a strong root. I grab a hold of it with my left hand, and as soon as I grab a hold of it, my whole body goes, and I'm like this, just holding on to the thing, and I'm like, oh, I'm having to like pull myself to the edge, and I get on those rocks, and I'm over on the other side, and I'm just like, that was the scariest freaking thing I've ever done in my life. And the only thing I was thinking about as soon as I got across was, I'm gonna have to go back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back. So by that point, I think you were yelling for me.
Yeah. I finally visualized, saw where you were.
Yeah. That point, I already had my wetsuit off. I was already like changing in my clothes.
Yeah. You were changing. And I was like, okay, he's safe. I'm going back down. I'm going to grab my backpack and bring my food up because I was just going to watch and see like what direction you were going on the other side and eat a sandwich. So now I'm going back up a freaking Gin. And by the way, that backpack that I took on that was the dumbest. That was this massive, massive backpack. It
Yeah.
was, yeah, that's incredible.
I'm just gonna show some pictures.
Yeah. I get up on the top to watch you see where you're going and eat a sandwich up there. And then I'm like, man, what am I going to do? He's going to be gone for 10 hours. So I went back down again. I'm like, you know what? Brian's going to be gone for 10 hours. I'm going to create some shade with this one bush that's here. I'm going to tie my jackets together and get me some shade and take a nap. Remember that? You go up and find like a dead end on the trail and come back down. And I mean, I had spent an
Hold on,
hour.
hold on, hold on, hold on. We'll get to that. Hold on. We'll get to
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
So let's talk about that for a second. So my intention was to get to the top of the North Rim. Okay.
Yeah.
I got 12 miles in front of me, probably 12 miles back, something like that. So this is, I'm gonna try to play this video. This is I made this video when I was gone, when you were waiting for me.
So we ran into some park rangers coming down South Bass, probably about 3.5 miles in, 4 miles in, with a few miles to go to the river. And they asking a bunch of questions and want to know if we were camping, had a permit. You don't, if you're not camping, you don't have to have a permit. But we were telling them we were going to cross the river. They're asking a bunch of questions about how we were going to cross it. Anyway, I'll talk about that a little bit later. But they said if you get across the Colorado River and you start going up North Bass, they said it's pretty much impassable because of like this other river. This is all snow melt, and it's raging. This is like whitewater rafting. These are like whitewater rapids.
It is.
And and they were telling me there's just no way across it, that there are multiple people that have come to this point and had to turn around because you just can't get across it. And I don't disagree. It's from up there, because I came from up there. From up there, it seemed like I could jump it. It's like, man, that thing's like 6 or 7 feet. I could probably jump over it, but it's more like at the skinniest point, it's probably 15. And there's just no way. And I just did the hardest part of R3 alt, which was swimming across the damn Colorado River, which was mind blowing. And now I have a failed R3 alt attempt because of this damn snow melt, and I still have to go cross the Colorado River again. Pretty disappointing. It's pretty unbelievable that this is how it ends right here, North Bass.
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't even watched that video since I recorded it. That's the first time I watched it. But that's what it was. I got to this, like I said in the video, the park rangers said it was impassable, and there was no way across it. I put 1 foot in, and I probably would have died on those rocks. I mean, it was moving so fast. It just was not safe at all. So that was about 4 miles up, and then I had to come 4 miles back down to the river. So meanwhile, you're camping out, you're in the shade.
Well, not yet. So it took me the entire time it took you to get up there and back to make the shade, because it kept falling down. I'm like, man, this is not Bear Grylls. Okay, this is harder. I was trying to figure out how to make every time I would spend 15 minutes getting it ready, the sun moved. So I finally got me a little bit of shade. I'm serious. This is not exaggerating. I got me a little shade, and I was like, I'd already ate my sandwich, and I went, closed eyes. Rob, I was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, 4 seconds, my eyes were closed, and there you are yelling to see where I was.
You know what was crazy too, because you're sitting there talking about 150 yards across the Colorado River.
Yeah.
I am yelling into a big rock face, a 200-foot high rock face. So anytime we're trying to yell back and forth to each other, and anytime either one of us said something, it would like bounce off the cliffs. So if you didn't say yes or no, if your response or your question was more than 2 words, you couldn't hear it because what you were saying plus your echo were
Yeah.
like interfering with each other.
I thought I'd be able to see and hear you better if I went back up that 200 foot. So I've already been up, down, up, down. Yeah. So I thought maybe I can hear and see better if I go up. I go up again. And yeah, I found you, but you weren't ready to come across the river. You took off and did like, I don't know, 6 or 8 miles that way before you looped back around and came back.
Not 6 or 8 miles.
You had already gone up and this way to that river. You came back down, yelled at me, then you went up past this.
I went upriver
And
because
then up and around this like rock formation. I watched you go all the way up there until you disappeared.
well, there was a trail right there. That was actually the North Bass Trail.
Okay.
That was running parallel to the river. And I was following the trail, trying to find a better launch point.
Yeah.
To where I could, because where I was yelling at you at is where I crossed, but I had to go further upriver to get to that point. So I came down and I thought I found a spot. Man, I'm telling you, like I was dreading getting back in that water. Like I was like, just, I did not want to get back in that water. Like I was already scared. It was already stupid for me to cross it one time. I was just really scared about it. So I found a spot and it's way upriver from the point where you were or where our gear was.
Yeah.
Like way. And I'm just like sitting there. And it was hot too. It's hot as crap. Had to have been not in the 90s, if not 100 degrees. I mean, it was hot, 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 hot. So I found a little bit of shade, a tiny little bit of shade. That at this point, it's like practically noon, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was getting late.
Yeah. So at this point, it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We're in the hottest part of the day, and so I'm in this. I'm tucked in to this little rock area where there's an overhang, and there's like this much shade, and I'm in it. It's the only shade that there was. So I'm just all right. I remember peeing in the sand, and it was dry in like 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how hot it was. So I get back into my wetsuit. I'm start stuffing stuff back into my dry bag. And I'm just like closing my eyes, just dreading it. And what do I see at this exact moment?
A gift from God.
A gift from the Lord. A raft. A big gigantic raft. And
I was up top.
What's that?
I was up top.
Were you?
Yeah.
And I do this kind of thing. Hey. And they're right there. I mean, they're only like 50 feet away from me. They start coming down. I said, hey. And they're all waving at me. I'm like, no, I'm not waving.
Help.
Help. and so I go, can I get a ride? And as I say, can I get a ride? The whoever was manning it was a motorized raft that was holding like 15 people. It was a huge, huge raft. As soon as I said, can I get a ride? He doesn't say a word. As I say that, he's passing me and he turns the rudder and just comes all the way around and lands right in front of me, right on the little beach area. And I'm like, he doesn't even say anything to me. And I'm like, hell yeah. I get all my stuff. I jump on that raft and he throws me and there's full of women, by the way. It was like this, like middle-aged women were on like this big 4-day rafting trip down the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. And he throws me a life jacket, put the life jacket on. I'm like, yeah, put a life jacket on. Like I haven't already been in this damn river. All right, put the life jacket on. And all right, where do you need to go? I'm like, across. And he goes, all right, where? I'm like, keep going down until you see our stuff. And he, sure enough, sure as hell, he took me down, and I dropped me off, and I took a selfie with the raft.
Ladies.
And this is you.
Look at that massive backpack.
We rested for about another. So that raft was at 1:39 p.m. I took that picture of you at 2:13. So we were probably there for 45 minutes to an hour just resting. And yeah, man.
Dang it.
And then we got back at it. We had to climb back out of the South Bass Trail back up to the top. And do you remember anything about going back out?
It was kind of miserable.
It was hard. It was a tough climb out.
It was so, man, it was hard. The coming out was hard. And every time I would be like, oh man, as soon as we get to the top of that, we're gonna be at the out of this. And it wasn't. You get to the top and just be like, oh, there's another false top. Here we go. We're still going. Yeah, it was that trail was a lot of like twists and ups and around big corners.
Yeah.
It was tough, man. I will tell you though, looking back, it was awesome. It was really, really hard, but it was a friggin' awesome day.
Why do you say that?
You remember, I wanted to leave a note on that Rangers tent so bad. But when I thought of that idea, we had already passed their campsite. I wanted to leave a note that said, "We swam." Taped to her door. I would say I look back and say how awesome that was because like we can talk later about the Grand Canyon, Bright Angel, all that. That's a whole different thing. This is two dudes. There's nobody else. Nobody's coming to help you. There's nobody gonna loan you water or a band-aid. There's nobody out there. It's me, you, and God. And I think in my head, that just made it awesome. Like when things got tough, I talked a lot. I talked a lot to God out there because it was just a quiet time. Hey man, I appreciate you letting me be out here. This is awesome. Yeah. There was no other people.
Yeah. Yeah, so here's South Bass Trail. And again, we started up here. And this area, this area right here is where this whole thing is like wooded.
Yeah, brushy and wood. You had to come off a big cliff, and then all of a sudden, bushes are smashing you in your face.
Yeah. So if you can see this right here, this is South Bass Trail, and this is what we had to do, man. And this is North Bass Trail over here, the dash line over here on this side.
So in that big curve, when you first got that peak coming back, and when you first got the peak of the Colorado River, it was like, oh,
right here,
right there. You remember that?
Oh yeah. So I first tried to like come down here, but it was all rapids. It was all rapids. There was a huge rapid section right here, and then the next huge rapid section probably was down here. So we were in this bend right here. Yeah. So I don't know exactly where.
That says 223 feet from the river to the trail.
Yeah. Yeah. So these are 200-foot cliffs. Yeah.
But
we were somewhere where there was like a bend in the river.
Yeah.
And then it straightened back out.
Yeah.
But we weren't all the way down here in that big bend. We were just like on one of these little bends.
That big bend is where the rapids that I saw were.
Yeah. So the rapids were way down here. We had many many hundreds of yards.
But you got to understand, like you can see where it says 223. That is super steep. We were down
Yes.
somewhere in there. And when you took off, all I could picture in my head was those rapids because I don't think you saw them, man. You didn't go far enough to see them.
No, I didn't go that far. I went
Across
I went 200 or 300 yards down to kind of see out here. I didn't go all the way out here where the rapids were.
Yeah.
So just to give you guys an idea too, when I crossed, this is this dashed line is North Bass Trail. And it was probably about here, that first creek crossing. No, I think it was past that. Yeah, this right here, this creek crossing. This right here is where I had to stop. So what is that? Shanumo Creek?
Is that red 2.2? Is that a mile marker from the river? Is that 2.2 miles from the river? I don't know what that 2.2 is. That's farther than that. No, because it's 2.2 there as well. Okay.
2.2, 2.2.
I don't know what that is.
Probably is. But where would the next thing
No,
be?
it just keeps saying 2.2. That says something.
No, well, I know that says 4.1 right there. No, I'm not 100% sure. But I just know what my watch said. So my watch could have been off. But anyway, it was about right here where I just couldn't go any further. Which let's look in the scheme of things is really nothing because you got to get all the way the hell back out of here.
Man.
All that's not is all this North Bass Trail. Yeah, I had a huge
Been a long way to go.
climb in front of me. It's probably right there. North Bass Trail, North Bass Trailhead.
Sure is. Wow.
So just look at the perspective of that.
Dude, we would have been headlamps on coming out of that thing.
Oh yeah. Look, so there it is. That's how far it is. Yeah. Yeah, man. So day one was a travel day. That was day two.
That was day 2.
Us getting into the canyon on Bass Trail. We didn't get back until it was like 9 o'clock at night or something crazy.
Yeah, I think some of the guys were already there, right? Some
That's right.
sleep. No, Barry was there.
I think just Barry was there.
Yeah.
Because they didn't get in until that next day, and I did a rim to river to rim. I went down South Kaibab, went into Bright Angel Camp, across the Black Bridge or the wooden bridge, went into Bright Angel, crossed the Silver Bridge, and then came back up Bright Angel. And I did that, and I had great time on that. I need to pull up that Garmin because I did. I wonder what my time was there. What day was that? Was the 10th? Let me pull all this stuff up.
Happy about your time.
Wednesday, May 10th. We did 20 miles on that South Bass.
On the alternate.
The alternate. And it's trying to pull it up, but it's taking forever. But we did 20 miles on that one. The 11th.
As long, I think, almost as long as it took us to do 36 with the group.
Let me see the time. 13 hours. So if we started at 5, we were done at 6 p.m. And we had to come back. By the way, we got to tell this story too. We had to come back out. So I remember finishing in the dark. We finished in the dark. It was dusk. It wasn't pitch black, but it was almost pitch black.
Yeah.
And we had to drive out of there in the pitch black dark.
Yeah, we drove in the dark, so and it went from being 100, like it was getting cold. It was getting cold on the way out.
Yeah, but it was, but we were back in the car. We were back in the truck. And we had to drive back out of there And that again, it was just really that 2 mile section. Everything else, there were some washouts here and there, but the surface roads were all right. You couldn't go fast. I think the fastest I could go was like maybe 40.
Yeah.
So I think it was only like 20 miles total driving, but just because you're going so slow, it took 2 hours. So maybe it was 30. Maybe it was 30 miles. But
Man, trying to come back up that hill that we basically crashed down. Woo, woo, I mean, we tried it 3 times.
I spun couldn't stop spinning the tires. And those first two failed attempts, I was starting to get worried. I'm like, I don't know if we can get out of here. But I
Bro,
knew
I'm
I hadn't
spinning
punched it
feet.
real hard. I didn't think I could punch it very hard because there were trees like right beyond like where I needed to get up this hill. You kind of come up over it and there's just
Boom,
trees everywhere. I didn't want to crash into the trees, so I didn't want to like just gun it. But I ended up having to because the wheels were spinning like crazy, the rear wheels, and ended up making it up that section. And then I feel like there was one more section that was a little tough too.
It was that tree in the post trying to come back through that and turn at the same time. That was tricky, real tricky. Once we got past that, I'm gonna tell you, I was so tired and it was so dark. And our headlights are hitting like these sage bushes and stuff. It looked like little witches and stuff. I was like, what am I seeing? I'm seeing stuff now. You know, it was nuts.
Man, and I remember asking you if you wanted to do the rim to river with me. You're like, man, I need a day off.
Yeah, I needed a day of rest.